This day in history in 5 minutes or less.
All right, guys, welcome to the inaugural episode of This Day in History in 5 minutes or less. So it's April 3rd, and what we're going to talk about today is actually the first cell phone call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I'm joined by my guest today, Nathalie Galde. So Nathalie is a comedian and actress, improv extraordinaire, and producer out of Chicago, Illinois. So Nat, tell us about a show you have coming up.
I have a sketch show coming up. Our opening night is April 11th. Closing night is April 12th. The Storefront presents Sketch Year at Best Year. That's the name of the show. I keep getting it wrong. It's a sketch comedy show by the Storefront Sketch Comedy Group. They've been around a while, and please come to the show. It's going to be at the Den Theater.
I love it. So we will actually link tickets for that on this post so you guys can see that. All right, so let's jump into it. April 3rd, 1973, the first cell phone call was made. So Martin Cooper stood on a sidewalk on 6th Avenue in Manhattan with a device the size of a brick and made the first public call from a cell phone to one of the men that he had been competing with to develop the device.
That's so petty.
So petty. So Cooper said, "I'm calling you on a cell phone, but a real cell phone, a personal handheld portable cell phone." He was then an engineer at Motorola, and he said this to Joe Engel, who was on the phone and who was the head of AT&T's owned Bell Labs at the time. That was their R&D department. While cell phones could not be available to the average consumer for another decade, anyone walking by Cooper on the street that day would have seen history being made.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the first cell phone was actually 2.5 pounds. And compared to like the average iPhone that we use today, it's being about 6 ounces. Like that's a pretty hefty difference.
Yeah.
Now, the first cell phone hit the market for $3,900 like a decade later, which is wild. So Nat, I want to know, how old were you when you first got a cell phone?
I was 17, but don't get me wrong, it was 2004. So, and it wasn't my phone; it was my dad's Nokia. It was
like a hand-me-down.
Yeah, a hand-me-down from the very beginning, right? Like my dad just did not get what phones were, didn't know what to do with it,
That's amazing.
didn't use it. Like he was still rocking that beeper, like no lie. So I was like, I don't know, could I use it?
It's like, I'll try it.
Yeah. And my mom was like, you can have it sometimes. I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah. So that would be like when you're driving though. So that would be a good, like that was one of the reasons I first got a cell phone. And mine was a little Nokia, and I remember playing the snake game on it.
Yeah, I was pretty good at that game for a bit.
That was a lot of fun.
And T9 word, we used to rock that shit.
Oh yeah. But I would really just used it to make phone calls. Like that was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And it was my dad. I remember my dad being okay with me having a cell phone because he's like, you're driving. But I had to pay the cell phone bill. And
oh yeah, me too.
I think it was like $30 a month.
Yeah,
or
we
something
had those data plans or whatever.
Oh, data plans.
For texts and everything. And
yeah, free after 9 o'clock. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was always a good time for people.
Good time.
I still remember somebody, a guy who I guess wanted to date me or whatever, texted me one time in college, and I didn't get the text. And then he reaches out to me, like we catch up with each other in real life, a week later, and he's like, "Hey, did you ever get my text?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't." He's like, "Well, I wanted to see if you wanted to hang out." And I'm like, "Did you consider calling me?"
Right?
Yeah.
On the phone?
Yeah.
Novel idea. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that stood out to me recently, my nephew, who's younger, he's 17, he actually told me, he was like, "I don't know why they call it a phone. Like I hardly use that app."
Oh.
Like he sees it as just another app in with the mix of a bunch of apps on his phone.
I'm sorry.
That's absolutely crazy.
That hurts.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So what app do you use the most often, do you think? Oh, is it naughty?
No, I didn't think I'd be asked this question. Right now, I'm using the Dropout TV app a lot.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm going to show you some shit later.
Dropout TV.
Yeah,
I like
Sam Reich,
it.
thank you very much for what you're doing for comedians everywhere.
That's awesome. All right, so final question. Everyone on the podcast gets asked this. So other than Hitler, because we'd all choose him.
Absolutely.
If you could go back in time and kill one person, who would it be?
I would kill Roy J. Plunkett, the inventor of Teflon, or discoverer of Teflon.
Yeah, he's the one, and he, with the DuPont family and all that, he's the one that we all have cancer because of him now.
We all have cancer because of Roy J. Plunkett. So I would go back in time and I'd kill that baby.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be easier to kill as a baby
Yeah.
for sure.
Or or find some sort of death that inadvertently affects his discovery of Teflon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Maybe
All
I have
right,
to kill an
y'all.
ant.
This is Nathalie Galde. Definitely give her a follow. And this has been This Day in History in 5 minutes or less.
Hey.